Yo, what's up, everyone? Good mic work. Back at you. Happy Monday. Happy quarantine Monday Night Raw. Well into a month now of all of this nonsense. And tonight we had a 10-match card. Do you realize that? I was just looking at my notes, looking at all the matches here for tonight's Raw, and I'm like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all the way up to 10. That's a lot of wrestling for a 3-hour show with commercials. But it's kind of the way things are now with the, they're not producing things the same way and not doing the same type of segments and everything. So it's just a lot of wrestling. So we're continuing on the road to Money in the Bank now. Kind of an interesting situation with Money in the Bank and the way that's being taped and handled and produced. And tonight's Raw was kind of skippable. Excuse me. I just saw Devil and Husband in the chat there saying he skipped Raw tonight. You really didn't miss a whole lot, even though there was a shit ton of matches on this show. And we did have some qualifiers for the Money in the Bank. We had the WWE title match made official between Seth Rollins and Drew McIntyre, and a couple of other things. But for the most part, if you skipped this show, you didn't miss anything. Hello to everybody in the chat already. Can I be heard?
The same type of stuff.
Yep, we're good there. All right, good to see you, Devlin and Zane and Harry and Ryan and the Machine. Diet Water. Good to see you too. Stone Cold, Cody, Tim, Papa Smurf, Nathan, Sonny, Sam, Jet. Good to see you guys. Yes, sir. Happy 420 to everybody. I don't think to the Machine answering your question right off the bat there, appreciate McIntyre being pushed, but couldn't Rollins have interfered to prevent the clean pin? No, not the champ. You know, that's the champ beats opponents, beats quality opponents. There's nothing wrong with him holding a clean win. I don't feel all over Angel Garza. You can lose to the champion. It's okay. It's been done since the beginning of the time. It's not going to... You're not buried if you lose to the champ. You know, Drew McIntyre is on a roll, and I love the way the match ended. After he beat him and he came back and pounded him a little bit more, that was good. Drew's on a roll. I'm liking him. Really wish he had an audience there, but, you know, so far I think he's handling his title run well. And the match with Seth is going to be good. We'll talk about it here because Drew also opened up the show. We'll talk about the Seth Rollins stuff, and, you know, that's a controversial match on its own because a lot of people are wondering why Seth gets the title shot. That really seems to bother some people with certain wrestlers. I've seen plenty of situations where if you're looking at it from a win-loss perspective, there have been plenty of guys that have gotten title shots coming right off a loss. It's not that so much, I think, that bothers people is that they just got to bug up their ass about Seth Rollins. So they try to kind of twist it around. But when you look at the Raw roster, Seth, I think, does make the better of the best opponent currently on the Raw roster for Drew. I think a lot of people argue that maybe Seth should have won number one contenders match. Fair enough. I actually pitched the same thing. Prior to WrestleMania even, I said if Drew wins, I think his first opponent should be Seth Rollins. And he should win a number one contenders match somehow. They just skipped that part. So, yeah, I guess storyline-wise, it would make more sense if he won one of those matches. But if he's going to win anyway, what's the fucking point of having it? Just so we can beat, 2 more top guys. And then everybody will think they're buried. So kind of cutting out the middleman there and putting Seth right in this match, I think is not a big deal. And I've got some ideas for Seth Rollins, too, that I wouldn't mind seeing. And we'll talk about that later on. I mentioned a couple of those on Twitter tonight. We'll see how the audience is tonight. I'm not expecting a big one. I'm not even expecting this review to be terribly long. There's a little bit of news floating around today that I want to touch on, but most everything we covered on Saturday for the Winged Eagle. And then I'll be up here in just a couple of days for another retro pay-per-view review. Funny thing is I have that date penciled in for Friday. That's the day I'm going to be releasing the video. However, it might be up a day early. Might even be up 2 days early. Let's plan on Friday, but just stay tuned. Make sure you follow me on Twitter and make sure you sub here if you have not already, because I might throw that up a day or two early. I'm not sure yet, but as of right now, that video is coming on Friday, so keep a lookout. And then hopefully by the time we get to Saturday for the next podcast, we'll have, a bigger chunk of stuff to talk about because we don't have a ton to get into here. The only thing that's interesting is that, apparently WWE, I think anyway, has filmed the Money in the Bank matches already at headquarters there in Stamford. And they've done a lot of filming because we've heard some of the news tidbits there. I don't know if they're going to break up the filming into the part that's on the ring and then go back and film the shit in the building. Or if maybe they filmed that already and they're going back to film at the ring later, or if it's already been done. Either way, what that means is we basically find ourselves in a situation of having to have qualifier matches on TV after they've already filmed the fucking Money in the Bank match itself. So I really hope spoilers don't get out about this. And I know they're doing some more taping tonight. I meant to pull up the schedule in front of me. I missed it just to see what their plan was tonight. But as far as I know, they're continuing to tape here for next week. And I meant to have that exact info for you. But I do think they are sticking around Raw tonight and taping some more shows. Or they might have even done that prior to them going to live tonight. Don't know yet. Thank you, Mr. E, for smashing the like button. Thank you to everybody for hanging out in here so far. We had a great audience on Saturday for the podcast, so that was fun. Hopefully we'll have some people peeking in tonight just to at least see how Monday Night Raw went. But we'll go ahead and start rolling through the results here, because there's a couple of things I want to talk about right up front. And number one is the Seth Rollins and Drew McIntyre match that I mentioned a minute ago. Drew McIntyre came out to the ring first. He opened up the show cutting a promo, talking about Seth Rollins attacking him last week. And, questions whether or not Seth deserves a title shot. He actually talked about that, which isn't really a babyface thing. It kind of reminds me of the night of WrestleMania when the Big Show challenged him. Drew's trying to get out of the match, which I understand. Drew's right. Hey, I just wrestled, the top wrestler in the world, the toughest badass walking planet Earth. I really don't need to be wrestling right now, but, that's kind of something a heel would do. No, kind of back down. Not that Drew was really backing down. I just kind of thought that he should have said, yeah, bring it on, Big Slow. I'll beat your ass right here. I don't care. So now he's kind of questioning whether or not Seth deserves a title shot, but he's got a point because Seth lost to Kevin Owens at WrestleMania. And that's what I talked about in terms of Seth being the champion, being the challenger, is that it doesn't make sense to put Owens in the ring with Drew right now. Owens is a babyface. You want to keep Drew over and strong. You don't want to divide the audience or anything like that right now, especially if they might be trying to turn him into another Roman Reigns. And if they are, they want to be careful with, how they handle him so people don't turn on him, shit like that. So putting him in the ring in his first feud with a babyface as over as Kevin Owens, I don't think is a good idea. So when you look at the rest of the roster, to me, Seth Rollins made a lot of sense. I think a lot of the fans' issues here is that he didn't win a match to qualify or didn't win a match to earn the shot. Fine, whatever. I'll meet you halfway on that. No problem. But regardless, he's got the title shot. And Drew, after kind of questioning whether or not he deserves it, he goes on to challenge Seth Rollins. So he's the one that actually issues the challenge, which is WWE's way of kind of explaining that. Because if they would have earned or given Seth Rollins a shot on TV, then maybe that argument would hold a little bit more water. But in storyline, it's Drew, it's the champion challenging him. That kind of absolves Seth of, taking a shortcut because he didn't do anything. Drew's the one that wants the match. So that's kind of how they made that good, which to me is acceptable. That's just as fine as having the number one contenders match. Either way, it explains Seth getting the shot, which to me is all I really ask for, because what in WWE really makes sense these days. So to me, this is one of the classic pick your battles type of situations. Makes no sense to flip your lid over something like this because he's really the best challenger on the roster to face Drew, for Drew to likely beat. Got to remember that. Drew's probably going to beat this guy. Seth's not going to win the title. Nobody wants to see that. So it doesn't really matter how they get there in my book. I think it's kind of silly to worry about it. However, I got an idea for Seth Rollins. Number one, I don't think he's going to be beating Drew for the title at Money in the Bank, but I would actually like to see him lose. And if he loses to Drew, you've got Seth, this guy that was basically your top star in the company, number one on the PWI 500. He holds 2 clean victories over Brock, including one at WrestleMania. He's been the man. And now he's going to go down to Kevin Owens and then go down to Drew McIntyre. He's got to bounce back. How do you bounce back from, kind of a losing streak like that? The Monday Night Messiah has been a complete joke and a failure. So, he's kind of on the decline here, it seems. So if he goes into a title match with Drew, gets beat, how do you bounce him back? I think he worms his way into the Money in the Bank match somehow and wins the Money in the Bank briefcase. Last time Seth held onto that briefcase, it was pretty damn entertaining. And I know a lot of people are going to automatically say, well, give it to somebody new. Yeah, boring. I know that's a great thing in theory to do. That's what the Money in the Bank should be used for a lot of times, but it doesn't have to be used for that all the time. I was no fan of Brock winning it. I thought that was stupid. But I don't think Seth Rollins would necessarily be over the top because the type of character he is would be the type of guy that would flaunt that fucking briefcase and tease the shit out of us for God knows how many months until he picks the exact right time. He'd be very similar to like an Edge or someone like that holding the briefcase. Now, I know everybody wants Aleister Black. I want Aleister Black. But in terms of briefcase and the fun you can have with it, I think in a lot of cases it's better on a heel. In most cases it is. Not all the time. Sometimes a babyface can be fun. But in most cases a heel is just, I think, can benefit more from it. And it would keep Seth relevant, keep him in the fold, even though he's dropped a couple of matches and put over the champion. It still keeps him with that briefcase, and he can cash that in after Drew's already dropped the belt. It can be next WrestleMania. I wouldn't mind seeing that. So I'm not ruling Seth out to do something and get himself back involved somehow after Money in the Bank, because I don't think he's going to be winning the title here. And if he loses, what next for Seth? Then what? Then does he finally fold and implode the Monday Night Messiah, maybe feud with Murphy or something? I mean, aside from that, what is he really going to do? So if he kind of had the briefcase, I would give him, like, breathe new life into him and keep him just as relevant, even despite 2 big pay-per-view losses back to back. You know, and that's kind of how you balance things out sometimes in wrestling. So I would be for that idea if they did it. So anyway, that's my 2 cents on Drew and Seth. Now, Seth later on, I'm scrolling through the comments here, making sure I didn't miss nothing crazy. Seth later on in the show, did you guys see the promo he cut? Where the fuck was he? He looked like he's sitting in like some gigantic chair. You know, there's that famous picture of like Andre the Giant and Timmy White sitting in giant chairs, and Andre looks like a regular person, and White's kind of dangling his legs off of it. Kind of reminds me of that. Like Seth was just in this big ass chair. But I didn't know if it was his house, if he bought that thing because he's the Beast Slayer or the King or whatever the fuck. But, and it was shot on like a shitty, looked like it was shot on his cell phone. So very low quality there. But he talked about how he's been where Drew has been. He's been champion. He's beat Brock at WrestleMania. He's done all that. He's been in his shoes. And he goes on to say that he has to take the title. He has to win the title, is basically Seth's argument here. And like I said, I don't think he will. But I thought it was a funny promo on Drew, just the way Seth looked and sitting in the whole thing and wherever the hell he was. He was either in his house or in a hallway of a hotel or something. I don't know where he was. No idea at all. Do y'all know? Good to see you, K-Dog's Kennel. Welcome. Glad to see I got some monkey wrenches in here. Happy 420 to you, Diet Water. Harry Rice, yeah, I was wondering if anybody would notice my my date on the overlay tonight. It's kind of his Christmas. Oh, thank you, Alan Barkley. Glad you got a chance to check out that video. That was fun to make. I kind of got that idea to do that video after the Jericho Cruise because I had taken so much footage for the Jericho Cruise. I'm like, oh, it was kind of fun to produce a different type of video like that, something that I'm not used to doing on the channel, and I'd like to do it again. So I came up with the idea of doing the old office tour here. So yeah, glad you like it, or glad you liked it, Alan. Thank you. Yeah, like I said, it's going to be a low audience in here tonight. I'm not expecting a big one, but we'll do what we can. If you guys can do me a huge favor and smash that thumbs up here as we continue to roll through the Raw results. We had a bunch of Money in the Bank qualifiers as well. We had 3 female matches last week. We got 3 men's matches tonight. First one up was Aleister Black taking on Austin Theory. Now, Austin, of course, is in Zelina Vega's stable, and she's on commentary for this, and she's pretty funny. Last week, I didn't feel like she was hitting so much. I felt like she was kind of struggling. Tonight, she felt a lot better. She had me laughing a couple of times, giving shit to the other guys on commentary, and really cheering Austin Theory on hard, which is funny because we all know in real life she's married to Aleister Black. And I'm like, girl, you need to be quiet with no audience. Your husband can hear you shitting on him like that. So that was kind of fun. And the match was decent. I like Austin Theory. He's super crazy, unbelievably young, almost maybe too young, I feel like, to be on this stage yet. But you know, Jeff Hardy wrestled at 16, so what the hell do I care? And I'm not really ready for him to be given any championships or anything like that, but, you know, being an up-and-coming semi-strong force on the roster, I'm cool with. Being a credible opponent for people, I'm also cool with. And Aleister Black put him down with the black mask, but not before Austin Theory ducked the first one, which I thought was good, only for Aleister to catch him real quick with another one, knocked him clean out. I'd hate to be Aleister's opponent, just to have to take that shot to the face every single week. Ouch. Puts him down, wins, and he now advances on to the Money in the Bank. And Aleister, you know, he's up there with our guy. A lot of us want to see him with the briefcase. I always just try to envision the briefcase holder, you know, instead of just trying to look at the roster and say, okay, who deserves a push? Okay, this guy deserves it probably more than these guys, so we'll give him the briefcase. Sometimes, and I've had this argument before, sometimes it doesn't have to be the briefcase. You know, your push can come in other ways. If Aleister is in an 8-man match or 6-man match, however many fucking people are in this match, there's a whole bunch of dudes in the match. If he doesn't win, I don't think that's like a burial or diminishes him at all, especially if you can continue to push him in other ways. If a SmackDown person wins the briefcase, then he can somehow get a title shot on Raw. You know, but it's not really going to be in the cards for him right now anyway, with the babyface Drew being champion right now. And I think Aleister Black and Drew McIntyre would be fun. But one of those guys are going to have to turn heel in order for that to happen, I think. So, I don't know. And that could be a good way, and that's a good argument to put the belt or put the briefcase on Aleister. If we could turn him heel, and he could cash in the briefcase and turn heel at the same time, that could be fun. So, I'm definitely not against Aleister holding the briefcase. And if he's everybody's like top pick right now of all the people in the match, he's the one we want, I'm down with that. I just kind of had that random idea about Seth sneaking in the back door, especially if Buddy Murphy would have gotten in tonight. I thought maybe Seth could take his spot or Buddy would sacrifice his spot, but Buddy lost anyway, so it's moot. Shayna Baszler destroyed a local jobber or local talent. I didn't catch this girl's name, but it was funny because whatever this girl's name is that Shayna Baszler was destroying, she looks like a close friend of mine. And I felt like it was personal. I felt like she was kicking the crap out of somebody they've known for like 10 years. It was pretty funny. But I didn't catch the girl's name. Shayna Baszler just beat her down and stomped her arm again, just like she did last week to Sarah Logan. And speaking of Sarah Logan, word on the street is that she's back. Fightful Select was reporting today that there were some rumors of her being either brought back to the company soon or already being back. A lot of people apparently went to bat for her and said that she should not have been released. Of course, she's married to Eric of the Viking Raiders. They're still in Orlando together, and, you know, she's with him, and apparently she might have gotten brought back, or at least brought back into the fold temporarily here, because there was a lot of mentioning of her name tonight. They mentioned her more tonight than she did before she was released. It almost looked like it was intentional, like WWE was going out of their way to mention her name to kind of let the fans know that, you know, she will be back. And now they've got a good reason for her being gone, because she could sell the broken arm from Shayna Baszler from last week. So they mentioned her here in this, and then later on, when they were interviewing Ruby Riott backstage prior to her match with Liv Morgan, they talked a lot about the Riott Squad, and they brought up Sarah Logan's name like 3 or 4 times again. So that's good news. I was sad to hear that she was let go, especially, you know, and same with Rusev or anybody else when there's a married couple or, you know, any sort of partnership, and they have to be split up because one gets released and one is still there. I mean, how WWE of a thing is it to do to keep Lana but release Rusev? That's their mindset. That they see more value in her than Rusev, who is proven to be one of the most entertaining people in the world, and Lana, time and time again, is proven to be one of the most annoying people in the world, but yet she's the one they keep. So that makes no sense. But glad to hear that Sarah Logan hopefully is back, and hopefully she also won't be the only one. You know, if we can get through this pandemic, a lot of the office staff and a lot of the departments that were cut and laid off or furloughed can be brought back in. Hopefully a chunk of this talent can be brought back in. I think AEW, like I said, isn't going to be going out and doing any mass hiring right now. I don't think anybody really is, but there probably is a couple of people they should snag right away, Rusev being one of them. They should just open up the wallet, take him right now. Gallows and Anderson, potentially the same thing. Not that tag team division needs any help over there, but bringing those guys in would be big. Everybody else, you can kind of just wait and see what happens, but I think AEW should at least grab a couple, but you can't grab everybody. And as far as the people that are coming back into the WWE, I would definitely expect, along with Sarah Logan, hopefully Drake Maverick. Poor guy seemed heartbroken. It doesn't seem like he has any interest in going anywhere else. Doesn't want to go back to Impact, doesn't want to go to AEW. He wants to be in the WWE. Posted a crying video in his WWE shirt. It's one of the most depressing things I've ever fucking seen. So I hope he gets brought back, and maybe a few others on the roster as well. So maybe in the long run, this won't be as bad as it turns out to be, or as it looks right now. It'll get better. But either way, Logan looks like she's back. That's good news. Here's an interesting team. Ricochet and Cedric Alexander. They've been teaming up recently on television. It seems like a team that WWE has just slapped together. 2 great talents that looked like they were getting pushes at one point. Ricochet was huge in NXT, came up to the main roster, was getting some opportunities right off the bat. Cedric looked like he was in line for a big push a couple of different times. And now, because they're both extremely athletic and talented guys with nothing to do, WWE slapped them together. They're even kind of color coordinating now. And I'll tell you what, man, I like the team. I didn't catch the name of the 2 schmucks they beat, but their chemistry's really good, and they look good together. And it sucks that there's no audience right now, because I think of teams throughout history that were slapped together. Oh, we're not doing anything with this guy, and we're not doing anything with this guy. Throw them together, make them a tag team, see if anything happens. And probably the best example of that, of a team that was as successful, would be the New Age Outlaws, because Billy and the Roadie weren't doing shit. They were useless, worthless on the roster. You put them together, magic happened. Started getting over with a live audience, started getting a reaction from people, and they built and got themselves over organically. And I feel like Ricochet and Cedric don't have that ability. They can get over with us at home and on social media. We can all tweet and text and holy shit, look how good these guys are. But it's not the same as having like people in the audience reacting to you in WWE. And they're management and writers recognizing the reaction this team is getting and saying, okay, maybe we should get them more TV time. Maybe we should give them some more mic time, see what they can do and see how they can grow together. And I feel like they're kind of doomed right from the start because on paper, this team looks great. What can the Young Bucks do athletically that Ricochet and Cedric can't? If those four guys had a tag team match, why would the Young Bucks automatically win? I know they would because they've been together forever. But in terms of like pro wrestling and athleticism, Ricochet and Cedric are about as good as it gets. So that's a nice looking team. And if they became a team and they created a name and they had, new music made for the two of them and they made a serious run at the tag team titles, I'd be fine with that. But unfortunately, just like so many teams, nothing's going to come of this. They're never going to become the New Age Outlaws, ever. They're not going to become the Young Bucks. They're not going to become that big. And that sucks. And it sucks that we already know that because they're so good. Those guys are so good. Ricochet and Cedric, Jesus. That's just a good, sexy-looking team, isn't it? And they're not going to go anywhere. They might even win the belts. They're still not going to go anywhere. Winning the belt doesn't mean shit. Just ask the Revival. Did you guys catch that story on the Revival? I thought it was fake. Everybody's talking about it. Apparently, Vince McMahon wanted to turn the Revival into a comedy team. This might have been, the big straw that broke the camel's back in terms of them leaving and wanting out. Apparently, he wanted to turn them into this goofy-looking team. There was some photos released of the outfit that they were going to have them dressed in, and it was so absurd, I kind of was like shaking my head. I didn't even talk about it on Saturday because I almost thought that it was a fabricated story. I thought that somebody made this shit up just to make Vince McMahon look even dumber than he already is because it was so ludicrous. Like, go look up those photos. You're like, there's no way that's real. I thought it was some kayfabe news shit. I don't care how out of touch or crazy Vince McMahon is. To dress two wrestlers up in that, no sane mind would dress up wrestlers like that and say, that's going to draw us money. They're doing that to fuck with them. There's no other explanation for it because it's so insanely crazy that anybody would think that would be. I mean, that's worse than Shorty G. And Shorty G's bad. I couldn't even believe it. I didn't even believe it. I almost still don't. I almost still, there's part of me that just thinks they can't be that dumb. They can't be that dumb. But maybe they are because Revival are gone. And they had no intention of sticking around. Every new contract WWE put in front of them, they were like, fuck you. And maybe it's because that's the type of shit they wanted to dress them up in. I just cannot believe that story. That was so crazy to me that I'm like, damn, not even crazy Vince could be that crazy. But I think he is that crazy. This company's crazy, y'all. Anyway, let's move on to match number 4 out of 10 of the night. Nia Jax defeated Kairi Sane in what was essentially a squash. Kairi got in a little bit of offense, attacked the knees a little bit of Nia Jax, but in the end, Nia Jax put her down, so it's clear that WWE's jobbing out poor Kairi Sane. We wish her the best. I don't know when her contract is up, but it appears like they are writing her out. I mentioned a week or so ago that I thought maybe Asuka, who's been very vocal lately on the mic, and they've been cutting promos prior to every match, maybe she's going to get annoyed with Kairi Sane constantly losing. I thought it might happen here tonight after Nia got done beating her down and winning the match. I thought maybe Asuka would come out to the ring and kind of help Kairi Sane up and then choke her out. And that can be the official, boot out the door for Kairi. But it looks like she is about to bounce, and that's sad. Kairi was pretty awesome upon her debut. She's held some big victories. It appeared she might be the heir apparent to Asuka at one point, but I think she wants to go back to Japan. At least that's what the word is. So don't know the story on that. Don't know the details. When her contract is up, but if that was her last match or she's got another couple matches left in her, best of luck to Kairi Sane. We had Apollo Crews defeating MVP to qualify for the Money in the Bank. No real surprise there in the outcome. The match was pretty competitive. At one point, because I had already written down, this is how predictable Raw can be most times. I had already written down when the match started. Right here in my notes, I'm looking at it. Apollo Crews defeated MVP. Because that's just what I was expecting to happen. And then there was that one spot in the match where MVP hits his finisher. What's it called? The thing over the leg and the twist or whatever. Hits that on Apollo Crews after putting the knees up and countering a frog splash. And I thought he had it. I was like, oh shit, I was wrong. MVP is going to qualify. But he didn't. Apollo Crews kicked out, hit him with a standing moonsault, standing shooting star. And then I think he's hit his finisher and won. So Apollo Crews does advance to qualify. That's what I thought he was going to do anyway, but they had me fooled there. I thought MVP was actually going to pull off the upset for a quick moment. So Apollo Crews is now in the Money in the Bank match officially. K-Dog's Kennel, man, thank you very much for the $10. Just want to continue to support you, my friend. How badly WCW botched Bret Hart's run? How would you have brought the Hitman into WCW in 1997? Man, I could make a whole video on that, dude. That could be a whole hour topic. We could do like a whole fantasy booking type of thing. Off the top of my head, I would have done every single thing they did differently. I would have brought them in quicker. I would have brought them in the minute they could, because they held him off until Starrcade, and then they made him the special referee and put him involved in a Hogan and a Sting issue that had nothing to really do with him. I think he should have been separate from that. I think he should have showed up on Nitro the moment he could. Maybe even do a deal where he hops the barricade kind of Scott Hall style and gets in the ring. And, hey, WCW wanted to bring me in with, a lot of vignettes and a big debut and a lot of hype and a lot of build up, but I got things to get off my chest right now. And then cuts like a shoot promo, because he had a ton of sympathy back then, and saying, that asshole Vince McMahon, I'm the greatest wrestler in this whole fucking world. I held the belt that signified that, and that asshole Vince McMahon took it away from me. So I'm here to come after the next best thing. I'm challenging the winner of Hogan and Sting right now, the night after Starrcade, right here on Nitro. And if you got a set at all, you'll accept my challenge, or you can be a pussy, and I'll come after you either way. Something like that. I don't know. I have no idea. And then maybe Hall and Nash then hit the ring, because who's their friend? Shawn Michaels. Maybe no Hogan, just Hall and Nash come out to the ring and confront Bret. Hey, we all used to roll together. Nash would be the perfect guy to cut that promo. We all used to roll together. 1995, we were on top of that company. 2 years ago, we were on top of that company in New York. Bret, we know you, we respect you, but our friend is your enemy, and, you're against us. And I don't know, they could have continued the screw job thing. They could have made that really real. They could have made it seem like Nash and Hall were going to take out Bret the minute he got to the company on orders from Shawn Michaels. They wouldn't have said that on TV, but they could have made it seem like that. Maybe do a couple of backstage shots of like Kevin Nash on the phone. All right, HB. All right, Heartbreak. Talk to you later. Just kind of allude to the fact that he's on the phone with Shawn, and then go attack Bret or something with a baseball bat and kind of turn back into the baseball bat NWO guys. I don't know. It's something like that. You can come up with all sorts of crazy ideas, but what they did sucked balls, big balls. Ryan, that's interesting. It's possible. Any chance that Kyrie cost Asuka the Money in the Bank match, leading to Asuka attacking Kyrie? Yeah, maybe. Kyrie would have to get involved. Would she turn on her, or would she try to help Asuka out and screw up? Could happen. Hey, and Stone Cold, I would have been fine with eventually building to a Sting versus Bret submission match over the Scorpion Deathlock, because when they finally did meet on pay-per-view, it was bad. I actually reviewed that pay-per-view, Halloween Havoc 98. I reviewed that last October, and there was a Bret Hart Sting match on there. And when you think about the two guys and the level of star they were in each company, and they have both the same finishing move, and they've never met before, man, that dream match could have been so much more than it was. All those dream matches Bret could have had there was nothing, especially with Hogan and especially with Sting. And both of them fell completely flat. They sucked. Man, there's never been a ball dropped harder than that ball was dropped. Anyway, back to Raw. We had Liv Morgan taking on Ruby Riott. This is the promo I alluded to earlier on backstage prior to the match with Charlie Caruso, who apparently was wearing a dress made out of Flex Seal. I'm not complaining. She interviewed Ruby, and that's when she was talking about the history of the Riott Squad and how her and Liv Morgan and Sarah Logan used to hang together and they used to be homies and all that shit. So lots to talk about Liv Morgan. Then she goes in the ring to have the match with Liv, and she loses. Liv pulls off the upset here, beats Ruby Riott clean. I like it. We all like Liv Morgan. We've been wanting for her to get a push for some time. Not sure if this really constitutes a push, what does these days in the women's division, but big win for her, and we'll see where it goes from here. We had a couple of cuts to Bobby Lashley throughout the course of the show with Lana, and they're in the weight room or the training area there at the PC, and he's just going to be flipping tires. Talking about flipping tires and how real men flip tires. A lot of tire flipping. We saw this 2 or 3 times. Maybe I think he hyped up the tire flip the first time, and then they went to commercial and did a few things. They come back, and now he's got like a big tire there, And then he flips it, and he's like, yeah, I'm the man. And then he's like, now I'm going to go flip this other one. And then there's this giant fucking tire. The tire was so big, I was hoping that there was somebody was like hiding in it. And then I think we might even stalled again and went to another commercial and then came back. And then he tries to flip the big tire. He can't at first, and I think he does it. I wasn't even paying attention. Flipping tires. Like, what the fuck? Who wrote that? Real human? People that, I mean, we fired the lady, the female writer that was responsible for coming up with a good part of the Otis and Mandy storyline. And we kept the dude who came up with the tire idea? All right. Do what you got to do, WWE. Next up, we had Rey Mysterio taking on Buddy Murphy, Money in the Bank qualifier. Rey did get the victory here. So we were right. We talked about this last week as all three of these matches were advertised last week. And I said that it was going to be Aleister Black, Apollo Crews, and Rey Mysterio. I thought maybe Buddy could pull off the upset here, but WWE's going to want Rey on the, on the marquee there. And he'll be in the Money in the Bank match as well. Charlotte was up next. She was in action this week. We've seen a couple of promos with her since she won the title at WrestleMania. This time she actually had a match against Caden Carter. Caden Carter, I think, has wrestled one other time on Raw since we've been in the middle of the pandemic, and she wasn't much of a threat to Charlotte. Charlotte put her away rather easily and rather handily, and I still don't know. I'm guessing it's going to be whatever the takeover was going to be. Still no date set, I don't think, for the Io Shirai and Charlotte match, but I am really ready for that. That's going to be good. As far as Charlotte appearing on Raw, a couple of you tagged me in some tweets. They're like, why is she there? Well, she's a Raw person. Now, initially, I thought that if she was going to defeat Rhea, she would hang in NXT for a while. I don't think she needs to be on Raw every week. Does it devalue the title? Fuck no. You got the greatest female wrestler in WWE's history holding the NXT title and bringing it out onto a TV show with higher ratings than the one it's currently on. It elevates it. It doesn't diminish it at all. However, I don't think it's necessary. I think Charlotte could stay on in NXT and maybe on Raw occasionally. That's what I pitched last week. Now, Charlotte is a Raw competitor who won the Royal Rumble and then went on to challenge for the title. So technically, in storyline, she's contractually obligated to be on Raw, and then they're considering NXT just extra. I don't know. But I think it would be better just to not overdo it with the Charlotte, to have her on NXT primarily and then have her on Raw occasionally to help hype a match, a title match, or an enhancement match, or to maybe talk about her NXT issue. Because if she does start having a match with Io Shirai, there is nothing at all wrong with WWE promoting that match on Raw. How anybody can find negative in that is a damn fool, because that's a match you want to inform as many people about as possible. It's going to be phenomenal. So I really have no problem with them using Raw to promote NXT title matches for the women. I just don't want to see Charlotte on TV every week on Raw and NXT, because then what's going to happen is she'll be on NXT cutting a match or cutting a promo or having a match, and then she'll be on Raw doing the opposite of that. We don't need that. We don't need Charlotte twice a week. We can have Charlotte twice a week, once a month. How about that? Then that's okay. So maybe like once every few Raws, have her on. But not everyone. And so far, since she's won the title, I think she's appeared in some capacity on both shows. And that's what I think they should stop doing. So anyway, Charlotte and Io Shirai, I'm ready for that. We had Andrade coming back out. Now, Zelina Vega's group here needs to be bouncing back because they lost the main event last week, and they are in a hole already tonight because Austin Theory lost the opener to Aleister Black. So now Andrade is in the ring against Akira Tozawa. And luckily, they got back on the winning track here. Andrade won with the hammerlock DDT finisher thing. And he keeps rolling. Bianca Belair defeated Santana Garrett. I like Santana Garrett. She's great. But she seems like she's never really been any more than a jobber since she's been there. Bianca Belair, it appears like that she was actually fully called up after WrestleMania. She's on the Raw roster there, but this really did feel like an NXT match. I even said on Twitter, I'm like, y'all don't even go here. Neither one of you. But maybe Bianca technically does now, because a lot of people do consider that to be a call-up, and that's good. And this was kind of a showcase for her. I feel like maybe a better opponent, maybe a Raw person would have been a better opponent to put for her in this type of match. I don't know who though. I don't know who's someone that's just useless. Put her in the ring with one of them. An actual Raw star for now to get her over. I don't know, just a thought. But she made a pretty quick work of Santana Garrett, and the Street Profits were on commentary for this, making a shit ton of commotion that Jerry Lawler did not seem to like, which just warmed my heart. Fuck Jerry Lawler. Mr. Ramen Noodle Fucker, or whatever he said last week. So he seemed highly irritated with the Street Profits, and I hope they were doing that on purpose, just to irritate that old man. But they were screaming, yelling, maybe to an annoying extent, but also to a very fun extent. And they were just out there cheering on the girl, Bianca Belair. What's the big deal? And I mentioned the Drew McIntyre and Angel Garza main event earlier on. Drew made easy work of Garza. And so that put Zelina's group at 1-2 for the night. 1-1 match, lost 2. So I don't know. I felt like they spent a lot of time last week focusing on establishing that faction, but in the last 2 weeks, they've suffered 3 losses. I think they were 2-1 last week, 1-2 tonight, if I remember right. So they need to do something else. And Drew hopefully is kind of finished with his issue. He's beaten them all now, right? Does he beat Austin Theory? Does he still have one more left, or is this issue done? He can focus now, hopefully, on building his issue with Seth Rollins and having that match at Money in the Bank. And that's another thing I'm curious about, because I haven't read the details or haven't seen the details on the Money in the Bank tapings. I'm assuming that it's just the Money in the Bank matches taped in Stamford, and the rest of the card is going to be at the PC. So likely the McIntyre and Seth match will be at the PC, right? So it'll be, kind of a cutback between the two, is what I'm guessing. That's got to be the way it is. There's no way they're having all those matches on the roof there. So I think they'll just be building to that in the next couple of weeks. Money in the Bank is May 10th. May 10th, and what's the date now? 20th. Oh, yeah, I should know that. So, yeah, we're still a ways off. We're still like 3 weeks off. 3 weeks from yesterday, right? Until this pay-per-view happens. So we got a ways to go. Let me cruise back over here to the chat. Looks like the audience is beefed up. That's good. My likes suck. Will you guys help me out so I don't look like a jabrone? 58 likes. That's jabroni numbers. I don't want to be a jabroni. Help a brother out. Ike Moore, thank you, man, for the $5. I appreciate it. Maybe it's just me, but it looks like Drew is making the most of his TV time as champ, despite having no crowd. Yeah, he is. I mean, what can you do? If you're in Drew's position, all you can do is go balls to the wall. All you got to do, the only thing you can really do in this situation is just, it sucks, but just pretend that there's an audience out there. Don't work any less hard. And there's a lot of reports are saying the talent is working even more hard to make their shit look good on TV, because the lack of a crowd really exposes and puts your attention on a lot more inside the ring, when maybe you might be a little bit more distracted normally. So the talent is definitely working their ass off, but in terms of you pouring your heart into it, Drew doesn't get to have that reaction. This is his big moment. He missed out on his WrestleMania main event and moment against Brock Lesnar. Now he's going to probably miss out on his entire run, because we are so far away from allowing fans back into arenas that his run, he's probably going to drop the title before fans are allowed back. And that sucks when you think about it. I mean, I'd be fine with him holding the belt for a year. No problem. But that's going to be a long year. How many guys, who's he going to beat? I mean, if he gets past Seth here, then what? Who's Drew's SummerSlam opponent? We should start talking about that right now. Unless they really drag out the Seth Rollins thing, but, then we're talking about a 4-month program here, and I just don't really see that happening. So after Seth, assuming Drew comes out of that situation with the title, the WWE title, by the way, did you notice tonight on the lower thirds there when Drew was coming out to the ring, they listed him as Universal Champion? Did you guys catch that? So assuming that he comes out on the other side of this thing with the title, who does he face at SummerSlam on the roster? And would that be, and it could just be a random opponent. I mean, after Seth, when you look at the credible heels that they have on the roster, he might just have to have a SummerSlam opponent, and then the briefcase holder comes out and attacks or something. So, I don't know. Has he faced Lashley yet? I mean, he could face Lashley and beat him. Maybe that's why Lashley's back there flipping tires, so we can all be scared of him. Holy shit, he can flip a tire. He's going to be champion. I don't know. But yeah, aside from, Aleister Black and Kevin Owens, I'd say would be your top contenders, but, they're kind of both baby faces. So, I don't know. Who's left? Who's left on Raw? Help us out. Yeah, I agree with Prince66, and I would really have no problem with that. I would absolutely love to see Edge win the title again. Absolutely. Got to remember, he's kind of still champion, isn't it? Isn't he? He still hasn't lost the title. Randy Orton got the first title shot at WrestleMania, and he lost. Yeah, but I'd like to see Edge win the title back. He absolutely deserves it. Good story for him. But I'd like to hold that off until there's an audience. He's another guy that I just feel for, and I feel for us too that we should all be experiencing this together. Holy shit, we get to be treated to another run from Edge when we never thought he'd put on a pair of wrestling boots again. And I would like to see him get that back. That would be nice. Oh, thank you guys. Yeah, that's a big help. Thank you, Dominique. Thank you, Marshall. I'm stupid. AJ Styles, Randy Orton. Both good choices. Maybe Brock getting his rematch. Okay. Well, yeah, I guess you guys bring up a good point. I could definitely see it being AJ Styles, and I could definitely see it being Randy Orton as well. Yeah, Randy and Drew. I'd be into that. What the hell did Orton do at WrestleMania? Why can't I remember this? I remember what AJ did. Trying to think how they would start that. Yes, today is April Van Dam. It is. Yeah, I can see either one of those. I think maybe AJ might be the more fun match. That would be fun. But Randy Orton would be another, pretty damn... Oh, yeah, Orton wrestled Edge. Sorry. Orton would be another, pretty credible guy. I mean, he's a legend. 115 world titles in the WWE. But, he's another guy that's just coming on the other side of a losing feud. So is AJ. So either one of these guys are going to have to go down. AJ, Orton, and Rollins all lost their WrestleMania matches. It's really interesting. So, and they're your really top heels. So, yeah, you could do the three of them in a row. I think almost, if you're going to do something involving a briefcase, I almost think that Randy Orton might be a better SummerSlam opponent for McIntyre, but I think the AJ match would be more fun. That's my opinion. Jinder, another good one. I could see that because Drew, I don't want to even have the conversation about him dropping the title until SummerSlam. Once we get to SummerSlam, fall approaches, then we can all right, it's been since WrestleMania. It seems logical now that, a title change could happen at some point. So I don't even want to start talking about it until then. So between now and then, he needs to slaughter some guys. I'd be totally down with Jinder because he needs to make that statement that he's not Jinder Mahal. He's not, because Jinder, it felt like they were here, have the title for some reason. Drew, they were really building to it. He was dominant. He was putting people down. He won the title in dominant fashion over Brock, where Jinder had to pull some shady shit to win the belt over Orton. Plus he's a heel. So I think that would be a really good way of saying, especially if it was kind of I'm not trying to shit on Jinder. Nothing against Jinder at all, but I think it would be awesome if they had a match, Jinder showed up on TV and challenged him, Drew accepted, acknowledged their past, acknowledged how Jinder got to the title before he did. You achieved this before me. I don't like you. I think you're a piece of shit, but based on our history and my respect for you, I'll give you a title shot. And then have Drew beat him in 2 minutes. Have it be a quick match. Have him put him down dominantly. Maybe not on pay-per-view, but maybe on Raw or something, just to solidify, that I'm here. But then, once that happens, I don't know what you do with poor Jinder if he just gets squashed like that. But he's not going to win the title back anyway, so it would be a good way to, I think, just highlight Drew's dominance and show everybody how much better he is than Jinder. Even though I have nothing against Jinder, but we didn't really want him champion. Nobody was happy with that outcome. Those are all good ideas, though. He could face all those guys. That's a lot of good opponents you could line up for him right now. You can line up Seth, line up AJ, line up Orton, and line up somebody like Jinder or somebody else that might be on the shelf right now coming back. He's already kind of worked with Andrade and all those guys. So I don't know. But yeah, you're probably right. It's probably what we're looking at. Yeah, Joe too. Joe would be another one, Dominique. I always forget about him. He's probably good to come back now in terms of his suspension, but he was injured or something in that commercial that he filmed, so he might not be cleared. And that poor guy, he's just had one issue after another since he's come in with injuries and stuff. So if he comes back at this point, he's going to have to get beat. Yeah, I would love to see that. Could you imagine them completing the trifecta? There's only one guy left. If I was Heath Slater, I would make that one of my main motivations. Heath Slater is now released, and you see how other guys have really made names for themselves after they've left WWE, Cody Rhodes and Drew McIntyre and a few others, Jon Moxley. And Slater isn't to those guys' level, but you talk about a guy that was floundering, and a lot in the same way that Jinder and Drew were floundering prior to them being released back in the day. So if he now does the same thing, he now hits the gym, he gets ridiculously jacked he hits the independent scene. He works a little bit overseas here and there, builds a name for himself, comes back to the roster 2 years later, maybe shows up in NXT, jacked, and kind of goes on the same path that Drew McIntyre did or Jinder did, or maybe a combination of the two. And then one day, if he can ever become champion, you've got all three members of 3MB made it to that height. You know, they all went from the faction was nothing and they all became world champion. You know, where in the Shield, you kind of knew that all three of those guys were capable of being champion. That was not the case in 3MB. So that would be quite the story. That would make quite the fucking DVD. And the funny thing is like, Heath could make it happen if he really wanted to, because WWE wouldn't want to turn down that story. You know, if Heath starts making waves, you know, he starts going places and making a name for himself and improving and getting himself over, WWE takes notice of that and being like, oh man, there's a story to be told there. You know, if we can bring him back, because apparently he's pretty well liked and everybody likes Heath. So that would be awesome. I think it's extremely far-fetched, but it would be an amazing story. I'd buy that documentary. Yeah, Heath Slater, WWE champion, WrestleMania 40. Remember the Benoit and Eddie moment at WrestleMania 20? You do that with all three members of the holy shit, that's what you do. No, that means Jinder would have to be champion. Nope, fuck that. I was about to say you could have like Drew world champion, Jinder universal champion, and then Heath Slater can come back into the company and win the NXT title, and the three of them can do like the big hug at the end of WrestleMania. That would be a great moment, but it would mean we would have to have Jinder as champion. So that's a trade-off. You guys have to tell me, is it worth it? Would it be worth it to have that moment if it meant putting the belt back on Jinder? This is some extreme fantasy booking. This is going to be the only place this is going to take place is somewhere in the multiverse. It's not going to take place on in the universe that we're in, not with this Vince McMahon. But wouldn't that be cool? Zane's next video is on 3MB. Oh, that'll be a good one. He'll do a good job doing that, I'm sure. I remember very little about them. I remember 3MB. I remember their little silly little shit, but I don't remember much about their coming together. I don't remember much. I remember a few of their dumb promos. I remember they used to act like idiots. That's really all I remember of them, just being a complete and total, utter joke. And that was all. Never really paid much attention to them on TV. Jinder can have a one-day reign. Okay, or Jinder NXT champ. I don't know if I want him NXT champ. Rather have him be in Universal or something. Yeah, I'd like to see, either way, I'd like to see him come back in and kind of complete that story if they can. If he can find the drive and motivation and determination and work ethic to do it, and he can just go all in. I'm like, all right, I'm in my mid-30s now. I ain't got forever. If I'm going to make a name for myself and I have any chance of ever being world champion, I cannot fart around for 3 years and then decide I got to do it now and dive headfirst right in. We'll see. I'd love to see it happen. Heath, are you watching? Of course you are. Do it, brother. We want to see it. We'll be your biggest fans. King Bling. Well, I don't know. I'm not sure. I mean, input from wrestlers is always good, but I'm not worried about Money in the Bank being epic. And I don't think wrestlers' input is going to have a ton of effect on it one way or the other, because they can produce some pretty cool shit when they want to. The Boneyard match was great. The Funhouse match was great. Tommaso Ciampa and Gargano was great. And I think this one will be great. How can it not be? So I don't think the whole thing hinges on needing input from the wrestlers. But yeah, the wrestlers are the ones doing the moves. The wrestlers are the ones putting their bodies at risk. They should be able to say, hey, why don't we do this or why don't we do that? But I'm not really worried in a creative sense of WWE not being able to pull something like this off because of the 4 big different type of matches we saw over WrestleMania weekend. They came through on 3 of them. So their track record is good, and I trust them in this situation. And plus, how the fuck do you book a building match? You know, how do you book a match that starts on the floor and ends on the roof? That's just a mess. But yeah, I think everybody involved, whether it be the agents, the writers, and the wrestlers, all should be discussing how these things are going down. I'm sure they did. Just give Jinder a toy belt. That's all he gets. Here, Jinder, here's your belt. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. Lysander Smith, Joe Pedicino passing away, probably isn't getting that much coverage because not many people know who he is, but I do. Barry, you're with me on this. You have the same footage I do, a lot of the same footage I do. You should have in your collection a whole bunch of episodes of Pro Wrestling This Week. Used to air back in the day with Joe and Gordon Soley, and it was kind of like a news report on like all the promotions. They would talk WWF, they would talk NWA, they would talk AWA, they would talk about everything, and it was really awesome. And he was a host of that for a long time. He was an announcer, I believe even a manager at times. He's done a lot in wrestling, but I just mostly remember him from that show, watching that. And he passed away, I guess, like a week ago or something. It's been a while. But yeah, I mean, he's an old school dude. Not many modern fans are going to know who he is. So I just remember him from the Pro Wrestling This Week show. He also did some stuff with Bill Apter, I know, back in the day. Oh, good, King Bling. Oh, you were the one that messaged me? Are you Glenn? Awesome. Good to know, man. Thank you. I think, yeah, the machine, I think Money in the Bank is going to be that way. I suppose it couldn't be. It could just be filmed like an empty arena style match, but the fact that they filmed it all means that they can really chop it up. So I would imagine it's going to be a cinematic type of shoot because you can do so much with it. Now, if they've already filmed it, you know, they can really cut it and put it together. So I think it's going to be a more cinematic type of thing. If it was filmed live, then I think it would be more like empty arena match style. But yeah, I'm expecting, I don't know if it's going to have music and stuff. I doubt it's going to have that. I think it's going to be more Edge and Orton style is what I think. Be closer to that, just with a lot more destruction, a lot more damage. They're going to be knocking down some walls. They're going to be breaking some glass. They're going to be doing a lot of things. But yeah, I'm definitely expecting some different type of production. Thanks, Devlin. Appreciate it, man. Thanks for the $5. I kind of expect WWE to put on a good show for Money in the Bank. Yeah, I do too. I do too. So far, I mean, that stuff at WrestleMania was good. So I'm not too concerned with them phoning this in. It really seems like they're taking the pay-per-view seriously by really thinking outside the box, you know, building and creating an apparatus on the fucking roof when they could have just been lazy and done everything at the PC. So sometimes the TV can come off lazy just because they're stuck in the PC and there's only so much you can do. Like I said tonight, we had 10 matches. When was the last time we had 10 matches on Raw? Ever. Ever. I don't know if we've ever had a 10-match Raw before. And a lot of that's because of the environment that they're in. So I think for the pay-per-views, they're at least trying to make them worth it. You know, because people that are crazy enough to not have the network, some people are actually paying $50 for this thing. So you can't give us a bunch of shit. I'm looking forward to it, though. What's the reason for Jinder's championship hate? And for me, nothing personally. I think Jinder deserved credit for just getting himself in shape and working hard. He's just one of those guys that, you know, I'm sure he had great work ethic. I'm sure he did everything right behind the scenes. Probably a great dude. They're not going to put a belt on a douchebag, lazy piece of shit. You know, I'm sure Jinder does a lot of things right, but he's just a character that's just not, nobody like really wants to see him. He almost had that Baron Corbin type of heat, right? Get off my TV. Don't want to see you. I can't be bothered. My eyes can't be poisoned with your fucking image, because that's how self-centered and stuck up I am. But he kind of has that type of heat where just nobody wanted to see him. They weren't interested in his title run. You know, even as a heel, he wasn't somebody that anybody invested in at all. And I kind of felt that, like I was indifferent to him. I didn't necessarily hate the idea of WWE rewarding a hardworking talent, but at the same time, if that talent and the character that he's portraying is not interesting, then what are you doing it for? So it's kind of like that. It's kind of a combination of both. He doesn't deserve that as a person. I'm sure Jinder's a great dude. But in terms of being on TV and being champion, I'm like, no, God, there's lots more people I would have rather seen get it than him. 3MB Hall of Fame together one day. I don't know, Devlin. Are they a Hall of Fame faction individually? I mean, now with Jinder and Drew, former world champions, that's kind of an automatic bid right there. Heath's got some work to do to get in there, but I don't know if 3MB deserves as a faction to go in. Did they win the titles? They probably did. Were they tag team champions ever? What did 3MB do? I think maybe individually, especially for Drew. Because there's some guys I don't want to see go go in a faction until they like go in on their own kind of thing. And I definitely don't like to see two like Hall of Famers go in at the same time either. I don't really want to see that. A lot of people said that about like Triple H and Undertaker should retire together. I'm like, not stars of that caliber need their own separate retirements. You don't combine them. You don't consolidate two retirements. You get the most out of each one. You know, give each guy their moment, give each guy their due. There's no such thing as a double retirement. Well, there is, but I don't think we're going to see it in today's day and age. Alan Barkley, thanks, man, for the $3. Do you think Randy Orton should have a custom belt? If he ever wins again, maybe. I'm surprised he never did that. Well, they did the Austin Smoking Skull. There might have been some snakes on that. Maybe they didn't want 2 snake belts. I don't know. Or maybe it was snake skin, the belt. I don't remember. Yeah, I'm surprised Randy Orton never had a custom belt. He always got the shit end of the stick, man. John Cena got everything. Randy Orton sitting there with his measly 12 titles. How many titles has Randy Orton won? I don't even know. He's a few under Cena, right? Devlin Husband, 3MB Shield. Holy crap, over the Shield. Yeah, 3MB was a jobber faction. That's all I just thought they were a joke and jobbers and a mess. Oh, I don't know, Ryan Rodo. I meant to mention that. We gotta backtrack a minute here and talk about the Vikings before I get out of here. But yeah, would I join the Viking Raiders for carpool karaoke? Maybe. Now, they were kind of doing the thing today. They were doing a sing-along in the car. They had their Viking Raiders gear on. Kind of similar to like the Hanging with War Machine hashtag from a few years back. I'm hoping that because we heard about the story of the revival becoming a comedy angle, that now that they're gone, WWE is going to slap that comedy angle on the War Raiders or the Viking Raiders instead, which would suck. I don't think it's going to get to that point, I hope. I'm okay with them being a little bit more entertaining because I think the whole Viking thing is weird anyway. Like, I was fine with them as War Machine. I just like that name better. I still catch myself saying it sometimes by accident. I still can't get this Viking Raiders thing out of my head. I think the whole Viking thing and the people that reenact that are really weird. I know a wrestling fan calling someone out for having a strange comedy or a strange hobby is dripping with irony, but I still think that's really weird, and I'm not sure if that's a way to really get you over either. But I worry about them diminishing their badass persona because when they're in the ring, they're just ass kicking, running all over the place, beating everybody down. And I don't want to see that taken away. But if they can get a little bit more entertaining on the side and do some things that would make regular people relate to them more, because who the fuck can relate to going out in the woods and reenacting a Viking battle? Not me. So I'd rather see them if one of them can sing and cut promos and do wacky shit, I'm okay with seeing more of that. It's just all about treading that line. It's just all about making sure you don't go too stupid with it, because those outfits that we saw pitched for the revival, that right there makes me just want to walk straight off a cliff. So just don't get stupid, WWE. You can make Viking Raiders more relatable, make them more entertaining, but keep them ass kickers at the same time. They must not lose that ass kicking quality to them. If they do, then they are Brodus Clay and Sweet Tea. And we don't want to see that at all. Knock on wood. But, we saw a little bit of that, though, with Gallows and Anderson. I think they achieved, even though they're gone and WWE never did anything to them, I don't think Gallows and Anderson ever fully made that transition into a comedy team, even though they did display their personality a lot. So I think if they kind of keep them Gallows and Anderson style, yeah, show that they're entertaining guys, but they can still mean business in the ring and don't turn them into No Way Jose, then yeah, I'm cool with it. I would like to see more. I would like to get to know these guys a little bit more, their sides of their personality, because I didn't really watch them much in Ring of Honor and wherever they were before. I mostly only saw them on social media. So I would like to see that side of them, provided WWE didn't fuck them up. And unfortunately, that is a huge if, because WWE kind of has a knack for doing that. So let's keep our fingers crossed that they don't ruin the Viking Raiders, and this actually turns out to be a good thing for them. I'm not optimistic, though. I don't think any of you guys are either. Devlin, you actually enjoyed Brodus Clay and Sweet Tea. I never really enjoyed... I guess I enjoyed... The only thing I did like about Brodus Clay was his debut, because wasn't he the one that they were doing all the vignettes? They were making you think, and we really haven't seen this done since, and I thought it was a cool little swerve. They made you think that he was coming in as a monster. Like, the vignettes were, like, ominous and dark, and, he looked like a scary son of a bitch, and then when he debuted, he came out there dancing. with the funkettes, and he's dancing around and all that, and call my mama, all that shit. So it was like, what the hell? And I remember the shock. I laughed my ass off. I thought it was really funny. But then after that, I immediately stopped caring about it. And then Tenzai, don't even get me started on Tenzai, how crazy that was. Oh, man. Yeah, a lot of people feel for Mike Chioda. I'm hoping he's a guy that maybe can come back, unless this is going to be a full retirement for him. But as I talked about last week, if they're looking to shave off a certain amount of money in salary to their employees and stuff, Mike Chioda is like the senior referee. He's probably making 5, 6, 7, 8 times more than the lowest referee on their payroll right now. So you can knock out a big chunk of money by letting go one guy instead of letting go 8 guys. So that might be the reason there, but either way it sucks, and it just fucking sucks, especially after you look at the financial numbers. And we talked about that on Saturday with WWE. I'm not a business major. I actually hate business, don't like that side of the world, and never wanted anything to do with it in college. However, you would think that there would still be a lot of value, especially when you look at the numbers and how much revenue they're set to do this year, nearly $1 billion more in company history than they've ever done. This isn't about financial survival. It's about keeping that stock price at a certain amount. It's about maintaining a certain level of profitability. That's all this is. So when they feel like they need to cut some of the fat here to keep themselves, their profit margins right, then all these people get let go. And I feel like they could have been, when everybody is being judged right now, all these companies, and there's a lot of these big, fucking restaurant chains taking a lot of the small business money. There's all sorts of this crap going on right now that we're all watching, and a lot of people are getting pissed, and a lot of companies are under the microscope based on how they handle things during this pandemic. WWE has a chance for apparently what seems to be a drop in the bucket money-wise to get some positive recognition. Their reputation is in the toilet right now, man. And plus, they're so full of shit talking about how they're woven into the fabric of society and WWE is a family. They let go people who've been working there for 25 years to save a few bucks on the side when they could have, because we know how they love to pat themselves on the back. We know how they love to suck their own dicks. They could be coming out on TV saying, we here in the WWE care about our family. That's why we've chosen to pay our employees throughout this pandemic, to make sure that they can feed their families and to clothe their kids, and just go on and on and on. Pat, 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 pat. And I'm sure some newspapers would run articles about them. In the Stanford paper, they ran an article about like MLW treating its employees so well. Basically, as a big middle finger to the company that's in their own damn city. So I think it would have been worth the price to keep everybody on at least for a little while so they can get that positive spin in the media. They can say, wow, what a great company. It's great to work for them. That's who you want to work for. You want to work for the Googles, the PlayStations, and the WWEs, the companies that take care of people and seem like a fun place to work. I would think the money that they're saving and the money that they're, saving, getting rid of all these people, that would be well spent just to keep everybody there for reputation. But that's not what it's about. That's not their number one goal. Number one goal is that bottom line. And that's why all these people lost their jobs, and it's fucked up. But it's business. WWE has every right. You can say, hey, it's morally and ethically wrong, and it's fucked up that you do that, but it's also completely legal, and that's the way kind of the world goes, and it sucks that it's like that. But hopefully, a lot of these people can be brought back. Not all of them will, but of all the people they let go, if they can bring back 80% of them, that would be awesome. Same with the wrestlers. Maybe a few aren't going to come back. Some aren't going to come back. We don't need No Way Jose back. Sorry. From what I heard, he's a tremendous guy, and a lot of people felt bad for him. But is that something we're going to really miss on TV? No. So not everybody's going to come back, but I'm hoping that most people do. Because otherwise, that would just be super sad. And in the meantime, Tony Khan's got his own problems. They got a football team to worry about, too. We don't even know if we're going to get a football season next year. But if he's willing to spend just a little bit more during this pandemic, grab your Rusev, grab your Gallows and Anderson, maybe one more, and then shut it off. And then everybody else just wait and see. But there's some pieces of talent you might just not want to ignore. And I think you should grab Rusev before WWE lures him back with some stupid-ass contract and ruins him some more. So grab him and do what you can if you can. But that's about it. AEW would be stupid from them to bring on 15 more wrestlers. They're not going to do that. Got to take time to establish who you got. But there's a couple of pieces of talent you just simply can't let get away. And I think Rusev's one of those people. So I'd like to see him show up on Dynamite. I'd be down with that. Holy moly, 650 people here in the chat. If you guys do me a favor and try to get these likes up for me, get me up to like 8,000 likes, that would be great. 8,000 likes. Y'all can do it. Come on. Oh, thank you, Barry. You did? New Money in the Bank pictures on the roof. Well, I got Twitter pulled up right here. Look at that. Huh. Wow. That's quite the set. They really put that together. They got trees around there? They trying to make it look like they're in the woods? That's cool. Now, that's kind of how I envisioned it would look. That's awesome. I wonder if that shit's still sitting on the roof. Anybody live in Stamford? Did y'all drive by? Let me know if it's still there. Yeah, thanks for that, Barry. I saw that, Ryan. Tony Khan was kind of getting into it on Twitter with one of his players. That's probably ill-advised for an owner to be barking back and forth, but somebody's unhappy in his organization and wants to be traded and accused him of blowing shit, but I don't know. Players are always pissed at their owners. There's disgruntled people in every team. Oh yeah, I guess I should stop calling him Rusev. Sunny man. Why stop at 8,000? Because I wanted to be realistic. 8,000 likes. We can do it. Yeah, and so far, and luckily AEW, they're not in the situation that WWE is in, where those assholes have hoarded so much talent over the years that they had no choice to cut people. And if WWE would have stopped signing guys for the pure fact that they don't want them to work somewhere else, and sign guys to the fact that you have so many people on your roster that Jerry the King Lawler doesn't even know the name of the person that's in the ring wrestling, you've got fucking problems. And now a lot of these people have lost their jobs because of that talent hoarding policy that WWE seems to have. And hopefully now this pandemic is going to make those days over. But if the world goes back to normal and fans can return to arenas again and everything's back to normal within a year, they're going to go right back to doing that again. I mean, think of the damage they've done to the UK scene and all that stuff. I mean, all they're doing is just signing everybody and just keeping them there, holding them in a pen like a cage of just wrestlers, just so they can't get out and go anywhere else. And so that is one bright spot there, is that behavior isn't going to be curbed now. They're not going to be able to do that strategy. So hopefully AEW can capitalize on this a little bit, and AEW is not going to have to take these type of steps to where they have to release so many people, because they're not that big of a company and their roster is somewhat small. Their roster is not huge to where they probably don't have to cut anybody for cost-cutting reasons. Based on who's there and who's being paid, they can't release 10 wrestlers. If you do that, you've lost a third of your fucking roster. So, they're in a good position due to the size of their company that they're not going to have to make any massive cuts, I would think. But I don't know. I don't know. I just hope the Khan family doesn't, make any drastic changes or decisions in terms of the wrestling if they continue just to bleed out money. But I'm sure the TNT contract helps too. I don't think they're going anywhere. I think we're all right with Dynamite for a while. Even if the empty arena shit has to continue, I think they can survive. I remember a little bit about that. I knew there has been some issues with the Jaguars and stuff, and the Khan family, and that's pretty common too. Yeah, whatever goes on there, I don't really give a shit what happens to the Jacksonville Jaguars one way or the other. I just hope it doesn't negatively impact AEW in any way, because we want AEW here. The more promotions, the better. This WWE is going to dig their fucking nails so deep into the world, we're never going to get them out. So we got to have something else to watch here. It's counterproductive and kind of stupid to root against AEW at this point, especially when the biggest game in town is so awful most of the time. That's right, Jordan Smith. Thank you. Dark Side of the Ring tomorrow. Dino Bravo episode airs tomorrow night. That's going to be good. I'm going to watch that one live. I got to make sure I DVR that tonight, because the last 2 weeks I've missed. The Dino Bravo one's going to be good. I've been really interested to see and hear that story, because I've only known the basics. I've only known the very basics of the shit he was into, and the basic details of his death, and that sort of thing. I can't wait to see who they interview for this and who has information that I've never heard. It's going to be exciting in a way. DM23, thank you very much for the $5. After seeing Money in the Bank, After seeing the Money in the Bank set, I more than ever want to see Shane O'Mac in the match. Also, let's go for 10,000 likes. Yeah, 10,000 likes. Look, we're almost there. We are almost there. We are only 877 likes away. Right? I'm sorry, 9,877 likes away. We're so close, guys. We're so close. Help out DM and hook me up with the likes. Yeah, and good point, Sonny man. I mean, of all the people that they cut, they couldn't have been like, hey, Gronk, we're going to be done with you right now because you are sitting on a pile of money in your fucking castle and all the dollars you made from the Patriots. Why don't we just not use you and keep 40 people in the office instead? It's another decision that could have been made. I mean, hell, Gronk, if... I can't say this because, I mean, it's hard to pass judgment, but I swear to fucking God, if I'm Gronk, I would never be that obnoxious, but if I'm Gronk, if I'm any player that's had that career and has that money and WWE paid me, I would call them up and be like, look, I want to sacrifice my salary, cut me, I will come back as soon as it's over, I don't want to do anymore, take all the money you're paying me and give it to them. I swear to God, I would say that. How much money do you need? How much money do you need? Guy's probably got $300 million in the bank. What's he need? What's he need an extra $1 million for? Give it to them. That's what I would do. But WWE's probably, no, we want to use you. And I'm like, well, fine, I'll work for free then. Dominique, thank you, man. Appreciate the $5. Have you heard anything about businesses opening back there? I heard our Georgia governor is planning to open gyms, salons, restaurants Friday. Holy crap. Not here in California. We're still a ways off from that. Now, I know the governor here is definitely not planning on doing any large gatherings like concerts and shows and sporting events and stuff, probably until next year, which is why WrestleMania is in a little bit of jeopardy. But as far as the restaurants and stuff, I don't think we're ready here yet. I don't. I would love that. I'm in the restaurant business. I need to get back to work. I would love to get back to work, but I'm expecting nothing to even be talked about until June. But I could be wrong. You have some states a little more aggressive than others as far as getting things open, and it's going to be a gradual thing, which is what I said. It's not just a switch you flip on and off. It's going to be certain things first. Okay, gyms, and you can go get your hair cut now, and you can go to a restaurant if you want, and shit like that. But I think it's going to be state to state as well. So yeah, I don't know. Still so many unanswered questions. Lysandra Smith, thank you, man. Appreciate that. Thank you for the super chat. Sorry, I'm just spamming a dude. There we go. Thank you for popping in as always, Lysandra Smith. You're the best. I'm going to go ahead and get out of here now. I think I'm done. I've got nearly 800 people in the chat here, which is kind of a lot for me, so that's great. But I probably will start getting some spam rolling in now as well, since all these fools be up in here. But anyway, I want to thank you guys for hanging out this evening. It was as fun as usual. We made the best of it. We didn't have that eventful of a Raw tonight, but we did have 10 matches, and we had a lot of setup for Money in the Bank, and it still gave us enough to talk about in the midst of the quarantine. So I hope you guys are all doing all right still. Like I mentioned every week, I hope you guys are hanging in there and dealing with the isolation and the quarantining as best as possible. And you're not going too out of your minds yet. Then you continue to hang out here on the YouTube channel and chill with me. It's going to be a long few months, but we got each other, right? Scott Moss, good to see you, man. I am working on your video right now. Thanks for the $2. Do you think Money in the Bank will be worth renewing my sub to the network? I think so. I would just keep the network, because the pay-per-views are the best value on there, but I think for right now, it's still good to have the network. I don't know. I would say yes. I would say keep it at this point. I would say keep it, Scott. I vote yes. And keep a lookout this week. Your video's coming. All right, guys. Thank you, Tom. Thank you, Princess. Thank you, Barry. Thank you, Devlin. Thank you, everybody, for hanging out tonight. And thank you for the 800 people that are staring at my big, bald head right now. I appreciate you popping in. Make sure you subscribe. I will be back up here at the very latest Friday, potentially earlier, and then we'll be back up here on Saturday for a very long Winged Eagle podcast. You guys take care. Be good. Talk to you soon. Peace.